invisible menace threatening homes in Southwest Florida.
I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Almost a month after Hurricane Irma, you could be living with a health hazard and not even know it.
Even if you only had a small amount of flooding in your home, toxic mold could be growing right now in your walls or floors.
NBC2 investigator Rachel Polanski shows you the right steps to get rid of the mold before it's too late.
That's right. Now, mold growth is extremely common after hurricanes, and our warm, humid climate here in Florida acts almost like a petri dish for growth. Piles of furniture sit curbside.
Every room had water in it.
All along Shady River Lane in Buckingham.
It was coming in the doors. It was coming in everywhere.
Where dozens of residents, like Betsy Burnett,
In here, it was up about there.
whipped out their walls and tossed their belongings. When did you start thinking about mold?
Immediately.
To prevent mold growth.
I know that drywall just holds moisture, and I know that if I don't rip it out, the mold is just going to go up the wall. So the quicker you get it out, the quicker you get the dryers and the fans and the dehumidifiers out here, the better off you are.
ASAP. Get on it ASAP.
And mold expert Steve Bray confirms it's important to eliminate mold as quickly as possible.
Mold can start forming in 48 to 72 hours.
But big warning here, don't try to do it yourself.
It is dangerous, and it can be a health risk.
There are many mold myths out there, like using bleach as a mold killer.
No, they cannot bleach it. They should not bleach it.
Bray says most of these home remedies won't work.
Using bleach as a corrosive, it'll burn mold. It will not go away. It will begin to multiply as a reactor.
So his best advice is call an expert.
They will find out the mold levels and what types. They will do a test. They will do a swab test and an air quality test.
That's what Betsy Burnett did.
She knew exactly where to cut the drywall.
And while she still has more cleanup to do, she's relieved to find her home mold-free.
If they got mold growing, they need to call somebody right away because it's not easy to get rid of once it starts.
Now, the major health concerns involving mold include irritation or damage to your respiratory tract.
My baby girl.
Amanda Doka has many reasons to want a safe apartment. Chloe is number one.
I'm trying to protect her and my oldest.
But this Egan apartment she moved into 3 months ago has a problem.
There's mold outside, there's mold inside, there's mold in the garage, there's mold upstairs.
Below the kitchen, a crawl space she says is always soaking wet. In the garage, below a bedroom,
It's saturated. If you touch it, it just falls apart. This is all mold.
a leak creating soggy walls and lots of mold. There's mold inside a closet, and these samples came from her son's windows.
My newborn is starting to wheeze, and I'm scared because, you know, her lungs are still being developed.
At the urging of a public health nurse, Dakota County environmental inspectors came to take a look. This is their report, finding because of potential health risks of exposure to newborn, this unit is not of suitability of habitation. That was more than 2 weeks ago. Amanda says her landlord won't return calls or texts. A maintenance person did spray bleach and replaced sheetrock. But Amanda says it hasn't addressed the real problems.
Their mold is growing so fast, and all they do is come in and spray bleach and say it's the cure-all.
Clearly, the science is there that mold has to be dealt with.
County and City of Egan officials say they're working on it.
Our interest is to get it as remediated as absolutely soon as we possibly can, without question.
They hope the landlord will cooperate. He has until Friday to explain how he'll fix the problem. But if he doesn't, Amanda's options get tough.
There is really no places out there that are budget-wise.
She can't afford to move. Forcing the landlord to make fixes could take months in court, leaving Amanda, Chloe,
Oh, look at that.
and the rest of their family living here with the mold.
They put their lives on the line when duty calls. Risky job whenever they head out. Never could the firefighters working at West Sacramento Station 45 have imagined they were also at risk inside the station.
It's surprising, and I would say it's probably fair to say it's disappointing. It is a newer fire station.
Mold was first discovered a year ago in a downstairs office. Battalion Chief Mark Collison says it's since been found inside several upstairs dorm rooms where the crews sleep. The station is fairly new, built in 2007. Now, the union is demanding action.
This is about member safety. They should have adequate living quarters. They should have adequate space for them to be able to spend their time while they're waiting for their next call of service. And we're just disappointed in the overall lack of investment in public safety infrastructure.
In a letter to the city, the union's attorney writes the city has failed and refused to remove the toxins, instead electing to prioritize spending on non-fire department matters while knowingly subjecting its employees to an unsafe work environment.
They're not moving quick enough, in our opinion, and not taking it seriously.
In response, the city brought in a mold abatement crew. Their first move was to seal off the affected areas.
Over the course of the next week, mold removal personnel will be here removing the affected sheetrock and cleansing and sterilizing the studs behind it.
The crews worry about what they've already been exposed to and hope the action the city is taking now will protect their safety when they're in between the calls protecting their community.
Oh, it was something from a horror movie. I get grossed out by tiny little specks of mold, and it's just, you want to scratch your skin after you've walked out of that unit. It's unbelievable that nobody takes that seriously.
This is what Adelaida Anaslagan found inside her bathroom when she returned from a 3-month vacation to the Philippines. A thick layer of mold growing on the ceiling. What's worse, she says, is it's been almost 3 weeks and Toronto Community Housing still hasn't dealt with the issue.
When I opened the washroom, oh, it's terrible. It's so black.
What did you think when you saw that?
I'm scared, and I'll call back to my son-in-law to pick me up because I cannot stay longer there. It smells.
Annis Logan says she went on vacation to the Philippines in late November, as she does every year, and made sure her son did a sweep of the apartment before she left to ensure nothing was left running. So she was stunned when she returned at the end of January to find this. She says she took pictures and complained to the property manager and has been staying with her children ever since.
Yeah, definitely. This is not safe, definitely.
We had an expert take a look at the bathroom, and they tell us this looks like toxic Category 3 black mold, the worst kind, which could cause some serious health issues and should be dealt with immediately.
The moisture is right there in the corner, build up. So 26, 22, that tells me that the water comes from there and spreads around the ceiling. So there is water leak somewhere, probably. This is the best idea, to keep the door closed, otherwise you're contaminating the whole area, which I would say this whole apartment, it's contaminated.
City News reached out to Toronto Community Housing, and in a statement they write, "We took steps to address the problem as soon as we learned about it from the tenant and have since completed an assessment of the work needed to remove the mold and hired a vendor to do the repairs. Repair work will start on Friday and take about a week. We're meeting with the tenant tomorrow morning to arrange for temporary accommodation." Now, we actually had to stop filming in here because once the technician saw just how bad the mold was, he said these masks that we were wearing weren't strong enough for it to be there for more than just a few minutes.
Well, the abundant rain has caused one North Augusta resident to experience potentially deadly consequences inside of her home. Our Tyrone McCoy went out to investigate the situation. He joined us live on the news desk with our look across the CSRA. And Tyrone, we were talking about potentially toxic black mold in this woman's apartment.
That's right, Barkley. Elizabeth Martinez says as the mold grows, she's growing more concerned about her health each day. With no response from the managers of the complex, she said she had no other choice but to contact us for help. Elizabeth Martinez has lived in Willowwick Apartments in North Augusta for 3 years. But for the last 6 months or so, when it rained, it poured this black soot inside her home.
It angers me, and now that the fact that there's mold growing everywhere and it could be affecting my daughter's health, it angers me even more.
She says her daughter has developed a chronic cough, a symptom the CDC has linked to indoor mold exposure, like the toxigenic mold that's creeping through the ceiling in her bathroom, bedroom, closet, and even her 5-year-old daughter's room.
And when I look up at that, especially when I'm taking a shower, I feel like I'm living in filth.
Disgusted, Martinez says she's notified the maintenance crew 4 times this month alone. Still, nothing has been done, and all they've offered are buckets to catch the water and her complaints.
They look at it and they just say, oh, well, there's nothing we can do right now. That does look bad. Just have to wait till it dries.
an act Martinez says is drying up her well of patience with the apartment complex. She tells us she's a tenant in good standing, so she doesn't understand why this issue has not been resolved.
And this, to me, it's unacceptable. Nobody else would want their kids living in something like this. I'm pretty sure the maintenance people wouldn't want mold growing out of their ceilings and affecting their kids' health. I don't want it to happen to mine.
She says she wants an immediate resolution, if not for her, then for her daughter.
Candace Green and her 8-year-old daughter Rio say their luxury Upper West Side apartment in the Ormond building on West 70th Street is making them sick.
I have a dry cough that's affecting my sleep at night. She has a chronic cough. I have a rash on my body that's very itchy.
I don't want to get sick or injured or anything from it.
The problem started in late August when Green says there was a leak in the closet of the master bedroom. From these pictures, you can see things got much worse when she discovered mold on the floor, shelf, and walls. It was so bad.
Look at the mold that's in my box.
These 3 trash bags are filled with thousands of dollars of ruined handbags and shoes, no longer safe to wear.
They still have the paper inside. They've never been on my feet.
The single mom and her daughter moved into the rental in July, but Green suspects the mold mess has been going on long before that. She tells us she's contacted the management company, Carnegie Hill Properties, every day to no avail.
I'm asking what they plan on doing, and all I hear is contact your insurance company. The building really doesn't seem to care. Her health means more to me than anything.
The building conducted a mold test last week, but until results come back, she says management gave her no other option but to stay there.
To what degree, to what level, I don't know, but there's mold in here for sure.
Concerns of parents overshadow the question of who's going to pay for getting rid of mold at a child care center in Greenville. The Little Willie Center and the center's landlord have been going back and forth over details in the lease, but parents want those in charge to think of the children. Our Zora Stevenson reports on the surge of emotions at tonight's meeting.
Not one visit about my children. I have a problem with that.
There were prayers, opinions, and disagreements. The community meeting held at the Little Willie Center started off as a back and forth between the center and city representatives. It's all over the mold that's affecting one of the center's buildings. Then parents started demanding answers.
They should focus on the children, they should focus on the parents, and they should focus on the volunteers, and that means the health of our well-being.
Those in charge were receptive to what parents had to say. Council member Rose Glover said she plans to take the feedback to her fellow council members, but isn't making any promises.
You don't want to say what can happen until everybody understands each point and each side of what's going on.
City Attorney Dave Hollick says repairs are going to fix the problem over the next few weeks, but parents still want to know what's going to be done about previous exposure to their children.
I do believe that they should have some type of health facility set up so that everyone that has been exposed to this mold can get the proper health care that they need.
The parties still need to decide who will pay for the removal of the mold. Both agree to meet in the future. In Greenville, Zora Stevenson, 9 on your side.
Parents and first-time homebuyers thought they did everything right.
I went into it with my whole life savings.
They relied on not just one, but 2 inspectors before closing on their new home. They paid a private inspector $300. His report read like this.
Crawl space was not accessible because of spiders. The dirt floor was wet and had pieces of wood on the ground.
What is that supposed to mean to us?
Turns out there wasn't a spider infestation in the crawl space. It was worse.
It's infested with mold, not spiders.
A fact they didn't discover until 3 months after the biggest purchase of their lives.
Our bedroom we were sleeping in, the floor started caving in, and just with our furniture sitting on it, and I could smell a sewage type smell. And then my husband went down there with his phone and started taking some pictures, and it was very visible. We just didn't know before buying the house.
They are concerned about the health risks for themselves and their newborn if the mold goes untreated, but getting rid of the mold and repairing the damage
will cost nearly $40,000. That's about a third of what they paid for the entire house.
There should be some sort of lemon law, but there isn't.
No one wants to help. They all say, go hire an attorney. But we don't have $20,000 for an attorney, and which shouldn't be our responsibility. We relied on the city, our private home inspector, the real estate agents, both of them, because there were two involved, to do their job, and none of them did. There was papers that aren't signed. So we were going with their direction, and they all failed.
Yeah, pretty heartbreaking for this young family. Matt, who you saw there, he's actually gotten a second job. He's working 16 hours a day just to try to save up enough money to figure out what to do next. They spent all their life savings on this home, and if they turn around to sell it now, they'll never get what they paid for it, and yet the expenses are just prohibitive for them as well. I did speak to the city. I called the mayor's office. They're aware of what's happening, and they're looking into it. In fact, they're sending somebody out to do some testing to see if there's any lead paint or what kind of mold they find throughout the home on their own. They're also working to see if this couple qualifies for any city programs to help with the costs of any potential rehabilitation. Reporting live in the newsroom, Jennifer Ann Wilson, 7 Action News.
We cannot trust NYCHA to police itself.
For 6 years, New York City Councilmember Richie Torres says a case called Baez versus NYCHA has been going on in federal court. It's a class action lawsuit that forced NYCHA to fix thousands of mold cases in public housing. After years of inaction and appeals, there was a hearing today. New numbers were released. 53,487 apartments opened mold and leak orders between May and July of this year.
I need my stuff to be fixed so I could live comfortably because they're killing me slowly.
Diana Vasquez was inside court Friday. She lives at the Jefferson Houses in East Harlem, and she suffered health consequences, she says, because of the mold in her apartment.
I've developed asthma, bronchitis, and COPD.
Pix 11 has been covering dozens of mold cases for more than 2 years now. But it's a new approach that Torres is asking for, including a new ombudsman or advocate to check out mold complaints independent of NYCHA.
A watchdog who will have the power to take complaints from NYCHA residents, hold NYCHA accountable, and if NYCHA fails to make a repair, the ombudsperson can have an independent contractor do so.
According to the CDC, health consequences of mold exposure include nasal stuffiness, throat irritation, coughing or wheezing, eye irritation, and skin irritation. People with mold allergies have more severe reactions, such as chronic lung illnesses.
They put like a little Band-Aid, and that's it.
Torres is also calling for a plan for better ventilation of apartments and a special call center for mold. NYCHA residents say they approve of these new ideas. They just want action now.
They haven't painted my apartment like in 9 years. We have mold all over. I've had to take actions upon myself and scrape and clean and paint.
NYCHA tells us this, quote, NYCHA has been working collaboratively with all plaintiffs and the court-appointed special master to find and fix mold root causes and improve resident homes. New mold remediation procedures have already been implemented with thousands of frontline staff receiving training and improved tracking of completed work orders.
Darren and Ann, locals tell me they have health concerns after finding mold and standing water inside their apartment building. We've got your back, West Haven, and we went looking for answers.
It's very strong and it's very giving you a headache.
Mold and standing water are just some of the problems at the Spring Realty Apartments. Locals say will not go away.
It's either a bunch of water or it's a bunch of mold, and it really, really stinks.
They say mold has been there for years. Those who live in the building say management ignores the leaks or puts a Band-Aid on it by cleaning it up and wrapping rags around the leaky pipes.
Just this morning when I was taking the garbage out, I seen a bunch of water dripping. I don't know where it comes from, whether it's the humidity or if the pipes are leaking. I see it in the hallways.
Ron says his girlfriend has lived in the building 9 years and says it's always been the same situation, and he's not the only one.
You have to breathe it in and breathe it in and breathe it in all the time.
I have asthma too, so it kind of makes it hard for me to breathe down there, especially when you're down there for a while, especially when you have to wash clothes.
Tenants tell me they're on a fixed income and feel trapped with nowhere else to go. Others didn't want to talk on camera, fearing retaliation.
A lot of tenants are scared to speak up because they're afraid that they're going to try to evict them.
For months, Melissa Kilgore says she lived with black mold at Springhouse Apartments.
It's just been a nightmare ever since.
She's had health issues,
Skin irritations, hair loss.
resulting in piles of medical bills.
Your medical bills, they're still coming in. You still have to go to the doctor. I still have to take my daughter. I have to take myself because we have to try to continue to get better.
Kilgore says a code enforcement inspection deemed the apartment unsafe to live in inside Springhouse Apartments on 2 violations.
Basically, it wasn't an accident. It was something they knew was there.
The inspection found an improperly installed air duct was creating moisture that Kilgore believes led to her breathing in black mold from her AC unit.
Black mold just doesn't appear overnight. It's something that continues to grow. Other molds grow with it, and it just becomes the perfect storm.
Kilgore says now she wants the owners of Springhouse Apartments to be held accountable.
This isn't right. You know, I would be held responsible if I did something like this. So what makes these investors, landlords, any different? Their bank account? I just want someone to change this.
We reached out to Springhouse Management, but they have declined to comment. Kilgore is seeking legal action against the company that owns Springhouse Apartments. In Augusta, Derenisa Jefferson, WJBF News Channel 6.
That's right, Jim. This report here in my hands was actually put together by a company hired by a woman who used to live here. Now, in this report, it finds that there were high levels of mold, toxic mold potentially, in some parts of that woman's apartment, and she said it was impacting her health. Sophia Ramsey says her story began with a few small spots here and there.
We reported it numbers and numbers of times.
The Overlook's management would clean it up, but the spots came back, Ramsey says. Then things got a little scary.
I threw up. I started having to go into the hospital because I couldn't stop vomiting. My son and I would choke all day. This is what we would do.
For a while, Ramsey could not figure out what was making her so sick. Then she got an idea. Could the source of her illness be coming from inside her apartment?
I took it upon myself to hire someone to come out and inspect this apartment.
The inspectors found black mold.
Oh, I was very upset.
The report goes on to suggest a long list of repairs for the unit, from windows to walls to floors, even landscaping, that would make the apartment less susceptible to mold. This is a challenging situation, which is not impossible, but will take a good amount of time, energy, and money to correct, the report reads. There is enough data in this report to suggest further action in the near future. To delay would only make things worse.
It really needs to be fixed. It's not suitable for people to be living in.
After the inspectors came, Ramsey was evicted. The good news is she feels better in her new home.
I haven't been throwing up, thank God. Things are better for me now.
River County firefighters have tested positive for toxic mold.
Tonight, their union says old, moldy fire stations are to blame. Thanks for staying with us here at 5:30. I'm Todd McDermott.
And I'm Tiffany Kenny. John Zanita sat down with the union and the county to get both sides of the story.
This is fire station number 7, one of the 2 stations where a firefighter was allegedly exposed to toxic mold. But was the old building to blame? The county and firefighters union disagree.
Rodent infestations, water leaks.
Emails over the years sent up the chain of command. Firefighters complaining about leaky roofs at their stations, dead rats rotting in the ceiling, and mold.
A lot of our members were symptomatic. A lot of guys were complaining about watery eyes, upper respiratory infections, runny noses.
Now 2 Indian River County firefighters have tested positive for toxic mold exposure. One at Station 7 in Vero Beach, the other at Station 10 in Fellsmere.
They had all types of toxins in their body.
The firefighters union claims the county is not putting enough money into repairing old fire stations, putting firefighters' health at risk. But the county administrator tells WPBF 25 News they just did air quality tests for mold last year at the fire stations in question.
It was found that the mold in the stations was less than the mold outside of the stations on the outside.
The county administrator says the union's claim comes at a very convenient time. They're currently in the middle of labor negotiations.
I went through this last time we were at impasse. The same issue came up 9 years ago or 7 years ago. Same issue came up. The minute we went to impasse, they had bad working conditions.
The firefighter who works at Station 7 that was allegedly exposed to toxic mold, he filed a workman's comp claim, but the union says that he was denied by the county, and now he's back at work at Station 7. In Vero Beach, John Zanitas, WPBF 25 News.
An update now on a story we've been following. A special Board of Education meeting was held last night in Wall Township to go over air testing in school trailers. Now, the company that performed testing on the classroom trailers in the back of Central Elementary School found elevated levels of a common outdoor mold. And last night, parents also learned the first contractor left the project after telling the board the trailers should not be used.
And they came a second time, and what they did was they said, you know, our recommendation is these trailers be scrapped. Okay.
That's what they should have done. You know, you finally found a contractor that has a conscience. I know they were going to throw a Band-Aid and just put new siding on the damn thing, and they were going to send them back in. Yep. Don't tell me they weren't going to do that. Because it took people on Facebook putting pictures out to see this problem.
And last week, the school board voted to stop the repairs and secure the site. The school superintendent said they'd move those students into the main building for the remainder of the school year.
Good morning, Amanda. I'm at the Roasters Coffee stand in Richland on Keene Road. It's the subject of a video that was posted to social media last week showing what appears to be black mold growing on the walls and in a walk-in refrigerator. The video, taken July 11th by barista Tyson Nation, has hundreds of views and comments online. Nation and his shift lead, Casey Booth, say they got fired on the spot the next day for their decision to close the shop in order to clean. Both employees say they stand by their decision as they prioritize their fellow coworkers and the public's health and safety.
I had so much time to think about it. It was a very important decision put on me that I had to make very quickly, because the longer it took for me to make that decision, the more drinks we were putting out to customers.
A statement from Roasters Coffee says that they take the safety of their customers and employees very seriously, and the issue has been resolved. But both employees say they have reached out to upper management for an explanation and have not heard back. Officials with the Benton Franklin Health District say in their health inspection Monday, they found no sign of any mold. Both employees say they wish the situation was resolved differently, but they hope that the company can learn from what has happened. Reporting live in Richland, Neil Fisher. Good morning, Northwest.
Excessive summer heat and humidity to blame for mold inside Oakdale Bohemia Middle School. Photos show mold growing on blackboards in classrooms, in stairwells, in the cafeteria, under floor tiles. But even after professional cleaning, air testing, and the all clean sign, more mold has turned up, alarming parents like Bridget Garcia, who says students are getting sick.
Coming home complaining of their throat, they're having a hard time breathing, just congestion.
The latest mold discovery last week in an orchestra storage closet. Outside contractors are now looking under ceiling tiles and rafters, evaluating musical instruments. But parents taking to social media ask why students are still allowed inside.
Move the students to another building until it's 100%.
The school was built on a marsh, and air quality has been an issue for years. Teachers Union President Tony Felicio represents the 90 teachers who work here.
And they see mold, they say, wait a second, how much did they miss?
He says he trusts the Connecticut District is taking it seriously, closing affected areas, informing the community, but is not sure it's enough to fix a chronic problem that sickened teachers too. A spokesperson for the district referred us to the findings of an outside contractor. Quote, the mold in air sampling and inspection performed did not identify any indoor airborne mold concerns within the subject spaces. The teachers union president says he'll propose a top-to-bottom cleaning of the entire school during the Columbus Day holiday weekend, because he says Band-Aid solutions over years have not worked. In Oakdale, Long Island, Carolyn Gussoff, CBS 2 News.